Hello, I'm Claire. Welcome to my channel Clarobobbins, and this is my midweek catch up, and it's one with a bit of a difference really. I have my plans, I've had my fabric wheel of fate and my technique stuff, and yeah, we're going to a funeral tomorrow. It's quite a sad time, and I had decided that there's no dress code for the funeral. So on Saturday, Mr. Bobbins said to me, what are you wearing for the funeral? And I had a think, and I don't have anything really smart black anymore. If you've been following me for any time, you'll know that I enjoy colour in my wardrobe, and most of my wardrobe is quite colourful and quite casual these days, being retired and all that, you know. So yeah, a bit of a quandary. So I decided that my mulberry cashmere rose clare dress, which I made with one of my later Fabric Wheel of Fate spring fabrics, that's quite muted colours. I thought that will do, that would be fine. Smart. It's going to be about 24 degrees tomorrow afternoon, 24 degrees Celsius in the UK. Tomorrow afternoon we're northwest England, and that's quite warm, and it will be quite humid because it's been wet for the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it's going to be hot and humid, but we'll be in a church for some of it, which will be cooler. And the dress will be mostly formal, I would imagine. Mr. Bobbins is wearing a navy blazer with dark grey trousers, I think black tie, either a white or a dark shirt, not sure, black shoes. So he'll be in quite dark, formal. And I didn't have a formal jacket. I tend to wear my little ecru sew over it Sorrento jacket with my rose clare dress. Far too casual for a funeral, couldn't possibly wear that. So it was Metra Blazer to the rescue. I've made 3 Metra Blazers, and I decided on Saturday evening or afternoon that I needed a navy one. And that navy, I've got navy shoes, I've got a navy bag, I could put navy with a navy blazer and wear my mulberry cobra corsage rose clare dress, and that would look quite formal, dark enough, but still dressy. So that was the plan. So I cut it out on Friday evening. I've made 3 already. I had the pattern cut out. All I had to do was find the pattern and yeah, get it cut out. So I did all the cutting out, changing over of the threads, new needle, new threads. Don't use my serger or overlocker, excuse me, when I'm sewing with heavyweight ponte. I found the fabric was washed but hadn't been cut, so I cut that all out on Saturday evening. It's a very quick sew. I'll put the line drawings up so you can see how many pieces there are. Not many pieces. There's a front which includes the collar, there's a back, there are welts for the welt pockets, and there's a sleeve, and that's about it. And you cut the front piece out, you cut 4, so you cut it out twice, and you put the pockets, the welt pockets, in the outside 2, and then the inside 2 are linings. So I finished it, what day would I say, Tuesday. I finished it off yesterday, I think it was yesterday. I spent most of Sunday sewing it. It's a very, very quick sew. I love this heavyweight ponte from Minerva. It's a lovely dark navy, so I think this will be fine for a funeral. it's quite a young person's funeral. I mean, not young, but you know, similar age to me. And I just don't know. Sometimes they say, don't they, you know, a celebration and wear bright colours, or they can be very formal. I suspect this will be quite formal. So this is it. I have some photographs of me wearing it, which I'll pop up. I just took a couple in the garden just now. I top stitched, I'll show you the welt pockets first. I'm not sure how well these will come up on the photograph. I might just take some close-ups of these and then edit them in, but those are the welt pockets, and it's a self-lining, so the inside layer creates the lining. I might at some point just hand stitch a label on the inside of the facing. I didn't think to do it, and I was putting it together. It was a case of quick, let's get it done, let's get it made up. I don't serge this ponte at all, so the inside is quite plain. It doesn't fray at all. So the just the plain inside is what you get. You could bind it if you wanted to. I don't bother. It's a lovely. It's quite a high viscose ponte. It is. So that makes it quite heavy. It's stretchy, so you've got a four-way stretch. It does stretch more in one direction than the other, but it does stretch both ways. And I've made it with the fabric. I have made it cutting cross grain on the fabric for one particular jacket I made when I didn't have enough fabric, so you can do that. It does fit, and it's fine. You wouldn't know from looking at the jacket. So it's top stitched around the edges, which gives it a nice neat finish. I've top stitched around the welt pockets, which finishes those off nicely. The back hem is just top stitched. You could cover stitch that. I don't bother. Just do a single top stitch. I just used a standard Gutermann thread for this, and it's fine because it's not really going to be under any stress. Although the fabric is stretchy, it's not like a t-shirt where it's very stretchy. It's weighty enough. There's enough give in the seams for the standard Gutermann thread not to pop. So I didn't even bother with Mariflex or twin needle or anything like that. I just sewed it with straight stitch on a straightforward Gutermann thread. It's the Shoal thread, and I'm really pleased with it. You can see it looks nice on. I think it'll look really nice with the rose clad dress. I've held it up to it, but I haven't actually tried it on with it. But I did try one of my other. I've got, as I say, I've now got 4 of these. And I have tried one of the others on with it, so it does look nice. So there we go, that's for tomorrow. So it was Metra Blazer to the rescue. It's an absolutely brilliant pattern. Love Notions patterns are really nice to use, I think. The booklets you get with them are fantastic. When I bought the Metra Blazer, I bought it when they had a big sale, and I bought I think it might be 40% off. I bought it ages ago. It's one of the first patterns I bought coming back to sewing, and I bought the sew along, the workshop with it, which of course had 40% off, which made it very good value. I've not sewn anything like this before, and it's absolutely brilliant, the sew along. It's really, really good. Takes you through step by step, and when you sew the collar, so you sew the back piece, you end up with, you'll see from the line drawings, I'll pop those up again, but you'll see that you end up with this interesting shape here, this right angle almost on both sides, and that forms the shoulder. And you seam the front piece here, and the front piece here together. You join those and you snip into this corner here on both pieces. You interface that section, and that's all sewn. All of that is sewn in one seam, which is a little bit tricky. And in the past I've managed to not quite get it so that all the fabric was, because you're sewing right up to a tiny point here and then out again. It's not madly difficult, but it's not straightforward, especially when you've got the 3 layers, because you do right sides together for the right side, and then you do right side to wrong side for the front piece, for the lining piece. So you do right sides together for the one with the welt pockets in, and then the opposite way around for the lining. And it's so what I did was the first one, the one with the pockets in, I did my right sides together, I clipped it all, and then I basted along just with the standard stitch all the way along here. You pivot, you put your needle in and pivot. So I sewed it all together, and then I repeat sewed it on exactly the same line. And if I wasn't perfectly on the line, I was on the line so it wouldn't show. Yeah, so I did it. I then pinned clipped my two basted pieces to the third piece, and I found that much easier to do than trying to do it all in one go, especially with quite a heavyweight fabric. I sewed it on a standard straight stitch. Whenever I sew with knits, I always reduce my presser foot pressure down lower. So my standard foot pressure on the Bernina is 70, and I move it down, for this one, this heavyweight, I moved it down to 50. And then I used a folded over piece of scrap fabric that I stitched onto and then started the seam. And what that does is any little nests you might get of thread, which is very common, or any problems with the stitching or anything, it all happens on the scrap fabric. In quilting terms, patchwork and quilting terms, that would be called either a donkey or a taxi, because it does all the work for you. It takes you into the stitch. So I used that first and then sewed into this bit, and that was particularly helpful on this thicker bit. Where I was top stitching the thicker layers, where you're going through the 3 layers in particular, in that I didn't have to use a hump jumper. I could just use 3 layers of scrap fabric folded together, the same thickness as this. Start off halfway along there, so there's really good. It's going through the machine nice and easily. You're not starting just with a tiny bit of the dog feed getting hold. I also have the upper feed, which is like almost like a walking foot on my Bernina, and I used that as well. I know quite a few machines like the Berninas and the Fafs, and I would imagine probably the Jukies as well have that. It's I can't remember what it's called on my Bernina, something feed. Anyway, the kind. It's like a walking foot effect with the foot. So yeah, it worked really well. So there we go, the Metra Blazer. What a lifesaver the Metra Blazer was this week. I now have an outfit for the funeral. So yeah, it's going to be a sad day tomorrow, but there we go. Yeah, happy memories, and we're there really to support the family as much as anything on that day. So yeah. So what else have I been doing? Let me tell you what I'm wearing. I'm wearing another 2 other Love Notions garments. This is my Rhapsody blouse that I made in the Minerva silk charmeuse, and I made this for my Sew April Blouse challenge for Instagram. It's a lovely pattern. I was really surprised. I made a toile for this with one of my Fabric Wheel of Fate fabrics, and I'd not not made the Rhapsody blouse before. Excuse me, I'll just have a quick drink. I've got a frog in my throat. That's better. So I hadn't made the Rhapsody blouse before. I knew it was a good pattern. I'd heard rave reviews. Don't know why I hadn't made one. I don't know. I think I thought I'd have to do a lot more at it to get it to fit, and that's always the thing with a new pattern, isn't it? Is how much do I have to do to make it fit? It's a quick make. It's a very forgiving shape. It's a very feminine shape. I just offered up my sloper to the toile and realised that I really didn't have to add anything at all, other than doing the full bust front, which I've done on both. I always have to do that on Love Notions. Extra large full bust front, and it's perfect fit. And I'm a very busty size 14 with quite small shoulders, and I find that's a really good fit on me. So yeah, the Rhapsody blouse, which I really enjoyed making in the silk, and I've got my trusty Largo cargos on, which you'll be able to see from the Blazer photograph, because the Metra Blazer photograph, because that's what I was wearing when I took the photos. Yeah, also succumbed to the Bestie Bag party. I'm very late to the Bestie Bag party, but the lovely Judy, who is one of my subscribers, showed me hers on our sewing social, and I was so impressed. I thought, that was such a nice bag. When I'd seen them, it kind of given me 70s, 80s vibes. I remember having that kind of saddlebag shape. I thought, oh, do I really want to go back there? But having seen hers, she'd made such a lovely job of making it. It looks so good. So Judy, if you're watching this, thank you very much. I bought the Bestie Bag pattern. I've printed it off. I haven't made it up yet, but it would be really nice to have a bag that coordinated with my Sew Over It Sorrento jacket, the ecru one that I wear all the time. It's so good, that jacket. I wear it with everything, and yeah, it'll be really nice to make a coordinating Bestie bag. Excuse me, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So that's my midweek catch up. I hope it hasn't been too long for you. I will just pop on the end. It's a very quick video about the two different feet I use and how I do an edge stitch and a top stitch. So you'll get the hang of it. It was a request from one of my subscribers just to have a look at the feet I use. So I'll pop that in at the end. And that's it from me today. I hope it's been useful. Why not try the Metra Blazer? Have you tried it? Do you like it? What would I like to do? I'd like to make it in a patterned ponte. You know, something with tweedy, or something with a bit more, you know, not just a plain ponte. Have you tried it with a coloured ponte? And what weight was it? This is really heavy, but I'm sure you could make it from a lighter weight one. And I know Karina from Lifting Pins and Needles does the most exquisite ones with there's a version with a pointy collar, and she does it without the pockets, just one layer with a faux suede, and that looks fabulous. I quite fancy having a go at that. Yeah. Have you made one? Have you made one in different fabric? Let me know what you think. Okay, that's me until Friday, so I'll perhaps see you then. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you don't want to watch the top stitching bit of video, now's the time to sign off. Bye bye. Okay, so here we are looking at my two favourite feet for top stitching and edge stitching, and to be honest, the one that's on at the moment, the 34D general stitching. So I'll just slip this one off to show you what I mean. So it has a transparent foot, so it's really easy to see where you're going. It has a line down the centre. This is a good general purpose foot, but I particularly like being able to see through it and see what I'm doing. this is my other favourite foot. I use this a lot. This is the number 10 foot, and it looks very similar to a blind hem foot, and you can use a blind hem foot instead of this to do a similar job. This one is just a little bit wider, gives a bit more flexibility if you've got the 9mm wide stitch width. It also, the D one means it engages with the dual feed, which is the Bernina kind of built-in walking foot. I do have a walking foot as well for this machine, which I would use if I was doing quilting or something heavy like that. But this built-in dual feed works really well. So you can see that my fabric is going to sit against that fin in the centre of the foot there. So it's going to give me a really good guide. And all I do then is move across my needle. So I'm going to move the needle to the left, and I'm going to move it to position 3, which will give me a nice wide space from the edge. So it's nice for top stitching along the edge. And this is the type of stitch I did on the edge of my collar for the Metra Blazer. And I'm using, I've got my stitch length on 3. And I've put a contrast thread in just so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. So I can just dispense, actually what I will do, because I showed you earlier, I talked about it earlier, I'm going to use a donkey or a taxi. So this is my donkey piece or taxi piece, and I tend to make, particularly with thick fabrics, I tend to make this the same as my final piece. So I'm just, sorry, it's quite strange sewing with my camera in front of me. Try and keep my fingers out of the way. There we go. So we just sew this. So any nesting of threads or anything that we're not sure about is going to happen on that bit of fabric before we get to the actual nice fabric, even though this is only a scrap. And then we just feed this in, and it should just sew really smoothly and nicely. If we were doing a seam, we could do a back stitch before we got into it. I like using the butterfly clips. They're nice to use on the knit. Just try and move my stuff out of the way. So I'm just using that fin there in the centre as a guide, running the fabric along the fin, so I get a nice even stitch. As I say, I've got my stitch length on 3. I've got my position 3 for the needle, and then I could just back stitch at the end if I wish, and then cut that off. So let's have a little look at what we've got there. So we've got a lovely even edge stitch, top stitch, which even in the contrast thread looks lovely. It's even front and back. And then all we do with the donkey or the taxi, whatever you want to call it, is we just snip that off, and that's ready to use again. Now we now have 2 options. We can either put the fin to go in the line down the centre, and I often use that, and I could move the needle across to a different width. So I'll do that, and I'll put my needles now on 5, and I'm just going to sit the fin. I'll do it again with the donkey. I'm going to sit the fin on the line of stitching. So it's not going to, you're going to be working by eye now, so you're lining up the stitching, you're lining up the fin on the foot with the line of stitching. I will do a back stitch, so you need to work carefully and not too fast, because if you slide off it you won't have quite such a straight seam. So that's one option. This is great for stitching the ditch, that type of thing. See how that looks. So we've now got quite an even double seam. Quite pleased with that. I think actually that was my top stitch and that's the bottom stitch. Gives you a good example of the difference between the Bernina stitch on top and underneath. You can adjust that if you want the thread to be a little bit more in the centre of the fabric. Okay, so my other option would be, instead of, I'll just pop this back to, I try and be in the habit of always putting everything back to normal before I do something else, and then you can't accidentally sew in the wrong place. So I'm going back to my favourite general sewing foot, which is for me this 34. These are Bernina numbers, it'll be different for every other machine. So back to the donkey or taxi, and I'll just get that up to the edge. Now, so my next option is to use the edge of the foot as a guide, or I could use the inside of the foot here as a guide. Now if I want to use the inside of the foot, I could then move the needle again. I'll need to have the needle out to do that. I'll pop it out, I can move the needle across. Let's see how that's quite nice. Okay. So I'm using the inside of this foot on my stitching line. Well, that's a bit wibbly wobbly. That's just because the camera can't get too close to it because the camera is right under my nose. But this is what I would do, but I'd be a little bit closer to the stitching. So, and I would practice first before I did it on the actual garment. I'd have a bit of a practice, and that's not too bad. It's a little bit wider, but you can choose what width you want and adjust your needle accordingly. It's not perfect, but you know, without having the camera right under my nose, just stopping me seeing what I'm doing, I could probably get it a little bit better than that. So those are my two favourite feet, and that's just an example of how I would approach top stitching on a garment. Obviously, the other option I didn't mention, I don't have it here, I'll just pause this video for a second. My third option is my zipper foot, and for those people that watched the information pattern review I did on the H2O to go bag, most of the top stitching was done with the zipper foot. Now, excuse me, I need to just adjust this on my machine. Is it 4? Yeah, 4D. There we go. So it doesn't let me sew through it. There we go. That's fine. So I can just move that across a little bit more. So if you were working around a zipper, for example, you could use your zipper foot. And again, I have two methods of doing this. I might either use the edge of the foot as a guide, or I could use the inside of this foot as a guide. I can just see through there, or I could use this as a guide. So there are lots of different ways that you can use a guide, or I could just use the throat plate here, which is marked up, and use that as a guide. So in this case I might just put that on the 5/8, so a 5/8 marker, and take that across as far as it will go. We'll just use the taxi. So what this obviously helps you with is if you've got a zipper or something, if you're doing a little purse or a pouch or something like my H2O to go bag, then this is really helpful for that. I'll just run the taxi in, and then if I was to sew this on the 5/8 line, so I'm now watching this edge here and I'm not paying any attention to the zipper foot or anything else, but I would be obviously watching very carefully if I was going around the front pocket of a H2O to go bag, because it's curved and it's tricky and you've got a zip in the way and all of that. This is just showing you different examples of how to get straight top stitching, and for those people that can already top stitch, it's you know, this is a kind of beginner, or yeah, probably a beginner technique to help you improve your finishing on your sewing. And it just comes with practice, really. And I think this is how I do it, but I think that you find your own way of doing things. You find things you prefer to do. You could, I mean, I have guidelines all down here. You can't actually, I'll just move you. So I have these lines all down here that I can run my fabric along to help me, as well as the guidelines on the throat plate on both sides, and they're really, really helpful when you're trying to sew, you know, get a line nice and straight. You can align your fabric up way back here with an edge and then run it through. You can use washi tape if you don't have those types of markings. Yeah, really good. So those are just my hints and tips to help you improve your top stitching. Yeah, there we go. So quite pleased with that. Sewn it nicely, and hopefully you can see that. Okay, hope that was helpful. Bye bye.